How may hookup culture contribute to the orgasm gap? And if it does it have to be this way?
So we go to the gynecologist every year, all the time. They examine us under a sheet, so we don't know what our parts look like, because they're trying to, they're really trying to keep us comfortable, keep us not exposed. But if you never look and you never have a coach showing you, that's that part, this is called a labia, this is called a clitoris, this is called a vulva, when do you learn and who teaches you? Do you learn how to orgasm from your first partner, your first sexual partner who's probably in middle school, high school, or college and has no clue what they're doing? Is that how you learn about your own body? So when are you supposed to learn that your pleasure matters? And how are you supposed to develop the tools to know where to touch, how to touch, and to figure out what feels good? We're covered in this shame, this sexual shame, where we think, we're not supposed to talk about it. Everyone should be having these mind-blowing orgasms, and if you don't, that there's something wrong with you. I just saw a woman in my clinic 10 minutes before I came over here in PG County. She was 52 years old and been married for 27 years, and her gynecologist sent her to see me as a urologist to say she's never had an orgasm before. It was amazing. I was like, do you know where I'm going right now? Like, this is amazing. I almost brought her with me. And I said, okay, do you have a medical problem? Because we can go through all of those things. Or is it just that nobody taught you because you thought your partner was the one who was supposed to give you this incredible orgasm? She doesn't have a very good relationship with her husband. And I said, all right, we need to self-love. We need to talk about, what it means to feel pleasure. So here are the books, here are the toys, here are the things, here's Reba the Diva's card, here are all the things that you need to know, and then once that doesn't work, or if you have pain, or if it's not working, or if it's the medications, come back, we'll go through the medical stuff. Just because you're in college now and it hasn't happened for you, I've got 88-year-old women who come to see me and want to explore their orgasm.
I think that, with hookup culture, we have to ask ourselves, why are we choosing to have sex in that moment? There are so many valid answers. But asking the question is key. And the answer that you choose to or you don't choose to, that's fine, but the why. And if that answer is your pleasure focused, then okay, go for it. But if it's your emotional sort of comfort, right? If you identify that you want to feel desired by a partner that you don't necessarily know, and that's okay too, to know that going in. But if you know that going in, you may not necessarily advocate for your pleasure. You may have enough from that experience, from the hugging and the touching and the kissing, and the orgasm may not be actually important to you in that moment. Or it may, in which case, again, asking the question is a good place to start.
Knowing your why is real. That's real. Because when you know your why, you can heed your yes and your no, right? I think a lot of times we're like, I remember being in college not so long ago, and having sex with my boyfriend, and it wasn't good, and having, but continuing to have not so great sex because this is kind of what I was expected to do. Like, if I didn't do it, he was gonna find it somewhere else, and my pleasure wasn't like, oh, I'm having sex because I want to orgasm. No, that's what I masturbated for.
So does access to these new dating apps, because there's a lot of them, Grindr, is OkCupid still around, Tinder? Like, when it comes to communication, we're talking about, how does communicating affect this? Is it something that's positive, negative?
Well, I think all of those are very complicated, and that the answer is both. Is that often with dating apps, it gives us, that wonderful shot of, oh my God, I matched. That means he thinks I'm attractive, and I think he's attractive, and that just is like this little ooh. And now we're chatting. Ooh, that's so exciting. We each get this little positive bubble, and then and I feel like it's like peaking, and then you're like, oh my God, we're gonna meet. And then it gets really scary. Is he going to stand me up? Is he actually going to show? Is he going to cancel out last minute? Oh, is he hot, or is he going to smell funny? And it's like this big up and down where you're not even getting really any kind of real content. On the other hand, if you meet in real life, you will know some of those things. Like, if a person's voice is weird if you know them in real life. But,
How tall they are.
yeah, for real, yeah, what's their accent like? All of, like, I'm really into voices. So, you've got all these different kind of noise from the dating apps. On the other hand, in my limited experience with dating apps, something I did like is that, at least with some of them, I was able to discuss right away, hey, I'm ethically non-monogamous. Do you know what that means? Does that scare the bejeebies out of you? Oh, I am actually not very kinky at all. If that's your thing, it's you're barking up the wrong tree. So depending upon the kind of apps, like with me, I did appreciate being able to just lay it out there, and if they couldn't, if it wasn't their thing, like we could just be like, done. Without the weirdness of when you meet a friend in real life and then you start getting involved and then you're like, oh, now he knows way too much about me,
What I think is we all kind of just desire connection.
Yeah.
And these apps make it easy to connect on a broad scale, but not in a deep way. And I think we kind of cast our nets really wide, and we've got all these matches, because for women it's like way easier, like, ooh, match. So how do you navigate through that, right? Like, how do you navigate through hookup culture to find this like true deep connection with someone? You can get an orgasm from anyone you choose, right? But I think it's like if you're looking for deep connection, it's important for you to value yourself. And masturbation is great. Hookup culture says you meet someone, you like them, you have sex, period. And I think that it's important for us to meet someone, maybe get to know them a little bit, right?
It's not wanting to do backbends in order to meet this person's expectations. And I feel like that's more likely when you don't know a person very much. You're not very emotionally invested yet, and you don't necessarily respect the person for their unique qualities. So sometimes I feel like, oh, I want to be like this really cool person, and really, I'm kind of pretty darn nerdy. And, so I might pretend. And I feel like that kind of not advocating for yourself will go into the bedroom, will go into your sexual, situations. Because you're not standing up for yourself if you're not fully comfortable, and you're not invested in saying, this is what I want. If we're not going to have it, then fine.
So in my world, I talk a lot to my patients and my clients about vulnerability. My definition of it is exposure plus discomfort. And then intimacy, my definition of that is exposure plus comfort. So if you are looking for a deeper connection, if that's your goal, then you have to go through exposure plus discomfort, which is vulnerability, in order to get to intimacy. And we know this on a fundamental level. We go out on date number 2 and we'll tell them about our divorced parents. We go out on date number 3 or 4, we tell them about our ex. But, at some point you get naked. Naked is exposed, right? Quite literally. But is it all exposed? No. Because when you're naked, your sexuality is not really exposed. Your body is exposed, your genitals are exposed, but your sexuality, those things that turn you on, the erotic energy you have, the interests and fantasies, all of that, that's not exposed. So when you meet somebody in a casual way and you want to have sex with them or some sort of physical hookup, that's cool. You'll go to the place where you're vulnerable and you'll have up to that amount of intimacy in that moment. But if you're looking for deeper intimacy, you'll want to go towards more exposure and through the discomfort.
That was such a great way.
I love it.
And now you know why I send so many patients to Dr. Majoros. So she's perfect. No one ever taught you how to talk about sex. No one. You didn't have that class in middle school, I promise. Your significant others also never learned how to talk about sex. It's awkward. Sex, I don't care if you're 72 or 22, you're really awkward when you're talking about sex. And you have to practice, you have to have comfort, have intimacy with your partner. I send everyone to sex therapy because no one doesn't benefit from sex therapy. No one's so good at sex that they can't get better. No one's so good at sex that they can't improve their communication, and that's what it's about. It's going to Dr. Majoros where she's your coach, going to Reba the Diva because she's your coach. She's going to tell you, get you to talk to each other and when you have the coach, it feels less scary because you're both vulnerable. You're both having to say things to each other.